A spacecraft named Discovery headed towards Jupiter with 5 astronauts on board. To conserve resources, 3 of the astronauts entered hibernation pods and would only be awakened when the ship approached Jupiter. Roger and Frank were left to watch over the ship. The reason it was called watching over was that the ship's operation and control were handled by the 6th crew member, an artificial intelligence named HAL 9000. HAL was the pinnacle of current intelligent technology and had never made any errors since its development. So the 2 men spent their leisure time running, playing chess, and enjoying their free time. Until one day, Hal suddenly asked Roger if he knew the secret of the mysterious black monolith discovered on the moon, and even speculated about the purpose of this mission. These words instantly aroused Roger's suspicions. Just as he was about to ask for an explanation, Hal detected an abnormality in the ship's antenna module, requiring the 2 men to go on a spacewalk to repair it. Perplexed, Roger had no choice but to find Frank. After getting Earth's approval, they boarded a small pod and exited the ship to inspect the antenna. They stopped not far from the antenna to adjust their trajectory. Roger put on his equipment and opened the hatch, then controlled his body to float towards the damaged antenna. The replacement process went smoothly. However, upon returning to the ship, after repeated inspections by the 2 men, no signs of damage were found on the module. They had no choice but to transmit the component's data back to Earth. Earth's scientists also found no issues. It was clear that the artificial intelligence had made a mistake this time, but Hal said it was a human problem and suggested that Frank put the component back so that when it malfunctioned, they would know what was wrong. Such talk made Roger highly doubtful of HAL's intelligence. The 2 men got up and avoided HAL. To prevent HAL from hearing their conversation, they entered the small pod and turned off the voice communication device inside. Now that they had discovered Hal's serious errors, which could be fatal in space, after discussion, the 2 decided to first send the module back and then shut Hal down. What they didn't know was that HAL had already analyzed the content of their conversation by looking through the window. Just as Frank was on a spacewalk to replace the module, an accident occurred. The pod suddenly moved on its own, extending a robotic arm and flying towards Frank. By the time Roger noticed, it was too late. The out-of-control pod and Frank had already drifted into deep space. Roger hurriedly piloted the craft to go and rescue him. After a long search, he successfully found Frank in the distance and immediately controlled the robotic arm to grab him. However, Frank's oxygen tube had already ruptured, and there was no possibility of survival. Roger had no choice but to bring his corpse back to the mothership. But at this point, Hal refused to open the hatch for him. At that moment, there was only one thought in Roger's mind. HAL had mutinied.